This conference will now be recorded.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Okay.
Okay.
Guys, you can probably use your chat window for most of our interaction. Okay.
Okay.
So whenever I have asked for something, please acknowledge. This is
Okay, sir.
not
Sure.
much from my end. Okay. Can everyone acknowledge, please? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Others?
I don't know what else are doing. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for the acknowledgement, guys.
Okay.
While the others are joining, let me introduce myself. Just give me a second. Yeah. So I'm going to be your trainer, and my name is Suresh. I have close to 8+ years of experience in IT. Just give me a second, guys. Yeah. So I have close to 8 years of experience in IT. Predominantly, I'm working as a data engineer. Where I work on technologies like PySpark, Azure Data Factory, Synapse Analytics, Apache Airflow. There is a huge list of technologies which I'm working on, which comes under data engineering, domain. And then I have been working on Python from almost 6 years in my career, guys. So earlier I have worked on application development using Python, and currently I'm using Python to develop data engineering applications. Say for example, you take Spark. So we use something called as PySpark. You know, PySpark to develop our applications, which predominantly use Python, right? And talking about my training experience, I have worked for I started my training career in 2016 for a company called Collabora, and then my journey continued from there. I have been training folks on data engineering related technologies, right from MapReduce till the recent cloud integrations. And I have started Python training in 2017. So it's been almost 4 years now, and trained more than 1,000 students on Python. Okay. And talking about my work experience, I have experience working on data engineering related technologies. I worked in various domains, starting from manufacturing and then sensor data. Okay, especially we worked on IoT domain, Internet of Things. Then I moved on to work in forensic dispute services. Basically, it's a forensic investigation and dispute services. So we kind of try to identify fraud detection. Then I worked on digital marketing area for Google. Okay, so where we were building some applications to automate their marketing campaigns, and then calculating their return on investments. It's altogether a different story, and an exciting project too. Then I worked for one of the asset management companies in finance domain, and currently I'm working for a bank. Okay, I don't want to mention the names, but yes, these are the domains which I have worked on. So during our course, I'll be trying to give you those real-time examples. Say, for example, whenever we are doing or whenever we are discussing some topic in Python, I'll try to get that flavor too, so that you'll have that your real-time understanding on whatever on where can we apply whatever we are learning here. Okay. Now I would like to hear from you. Guys, this session is being recorded, not just this session. Every session in our course will be recorded. So in the interest of recording, I request you, please be on mute throughout the session. Okay. And I want you to use chat window as much as possible, right? So either you can ping message to everyone, or you can just ping message privately to me. Anything works. Okay, so use chat window as much as possible, guys, and let's try to make this session as interactive as possible. Like I said, session is being recorded. So for example, if you want to go through this session again, it shouldn't be clumsy, everyone talking in the session. So that is the reason I'm requesting you to use chat window for our interaction, and I'll be reading out your question and I'll be answering that question. Okay. And the second point, let's try to make this session as interactive as possible. I want you to interact with me as much as I am interacting with you. Okay. And we'll get started with introduction. So this is all I'm looking for, guys. Okay. Your name, and then your experience, and the current technology you're working on. Current technology. Okay, let's say, for example, if it was me, Suresh, and then let's say my experience is 8+ years, and then my current technology is data engineering domain. Or if it is ETL, you can write ETL. Data science, yes, data science. Application development, testing. If you are a fresher, you don't need all these things. Just mention your name and then fresher. Okay. So I'll give you a couple of minutes, guys. Please use chat window to introduce yourself in this format. That would give me some idea on where I can start this demo. Gitanjali, fresher. Hi, Gitanjali. Gopinath, fresher. Hey, hi, Gopinath. Primary fresher. Okay. Sri Vidya, business analytics. 2 years of experience. So when you say business analytics, I'm expecting some kind of data visualization tools like Power BI, Tableau, and a little bit of SQL. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sri Divya. 7 years telecom, network planning and designing. Good. Perfect. Srinu, hi Srinu, fresher. Guys, I'm waiting for others too. Let's try to make this exercise real quick. 4 years solution architect. Okay. Hi Sai. Cool. So let's get started, guys. Let me start with today's agenda. What I'm gonna walk you through in the next 1 hour, and then we'll get into the big picture. Just a second, guys. So this is our today's agenda. Okay. So first things first, I'm gonna introduce what exactly Python to you. Okay. Intro to Python, basic concepts though. And then I'm gonna talk about applications of Python. So basically the second topic, right, applications of Python would give you good understanding on how you're gonna take this learning in our course. Okay. So what you would be able to do next, right? I'll be taking different scenarios. I mean, how this course would be helping freshers, how this course would be helping, experienced folks out there, right? So that topic will be covered here itself. And then I'm gonna walk you through our course. Okay. So here basically I'm gonna show you all the topics which I'm gonna teach you in the next 1.5 to 2 months. And finally, I'm gonna end this course with FAQs. Not FAQs, I would say Q&A, right? So this is the agenda for today's session, guys. And like I said, one big request from my end, interact with me as much as possible. Okay, because this is not a physical demo. I couldn't see your faces directly. So the only way I can interact with you is through the chat. Okay, so try to be as interactive as possible. That would really motivate me to take that extra step, right? So let's get started. So before we talk about Python, so let's start with the basic definition of a programming language. What exactly is a programming language, guys, according to you? What exactly is a programming language? You can give me any definition, guys. It could be, it could be a stupid definition too. I'm totally okay with it. Okay, like I said, the reason I ask you questions is not to test you, but to make the session interactive, right? So what exactly is a programming language according to you? Anyone? And let me tell you what, you are free to use Google. Cool. Looks like nobody is interested to answer. That's fine. So programming language, the bookish definition of a programming language is nothing but, a set of instructions. Set of instructions given to a computer. Okay, set of instructions given to a computer to perform certain tasks. Correct. Thanks, Nividya Sai. Okay. And let me put it in a layman terminology. I'm not a techie guy, right? Let's assume I'm not a techie guy. Now, let me try to understand what exactly a programming language is. It's pretty simple, guys. Your computer is not self-intelligent. Your laptop, your computers, your PCs, right? They are not self-intelligent. Okay, they cannot do everything by its own. They cannot do anything, okay, by its own. So they need help of someone, um, you know to teach something to the computer. Okay, so computer is a dumb machine. Computer is a dumb machine which blindly follows your instruction. Maybe if you ask computer to open something, it will just go and open something. If you want computer to compute something, it will do some computing for you. Okay, maybe running an algorithm, or maybe running a mathematical formula, or maybe running some basic arithmetic calculations. Okay, so your computer cannot do anything by itself. It's you who will have to tell your computer to do something. And how you want to do that? because your computer doesn't understand your language. Okay, so you will have to learn programming language. Again, when I say programming language, you might ask me, boss, computer can only understand only zeros and ones. Okay, so what is this programming language doing in between? Okay, so this programming language acts as a mediator. This programming language, right, acts as a mediator. Let's say you have user here, and then you have computer here, which understand only zeros and ones. So now this user can interact with computer using this programming language. And then this programming language, different programming languages we have, starting from C, then C++, then we have Java, Python, Scala. Okay, and this list goes on, guys. This is a never-ending list, right? A user can learn programming language, and this programming language can interact with the computer. Now you might ask me a question, because the computer can understand only zeros and ones, right? So how the code we have written here would be converted to something that is understandable by the computer. So you have something called as compiler. So every programming language comes up with a component called compiler. So this compiler is the component which does this job. Okay. For example, you are using C to interact with the computer. You have C compiler. You have, you are using C++ to interact with your computer, right? You have C++ compiler. The moment you have installed C++ in your machine, it also comes along with C++ compiler. Similarly, you have Python compiler, Java compiler, and this compiler is specific to that programming language. Okay, so let's say the computer only knows Italian, which is zeros and ones, and this user knows only Telugu. Okay, and this compiler, right? This is the one. This is the one who knows Italian and English. Okay, and this medium, whatever the programming language you are referring to here, right, should be English. Okay, so this is a huge chain, guys. So for a Telugu guy to interact with an Italian, so what he does is he learn English, because this English is kind of a standard. Okay, English is kind of a standard. You have a Telugu guy interacting with a mediator who knows Italian and English, and this Italian guy would be converting everything to Telugu. Okay, so this is a kind of chain, and the compiler does this job of converting whatever the programming language you have to the computer. Okay, does that make sense to everyone? Yes, no, maybe? Perfect. Now let's talk about classification of programming languages, guys. That is very important too. Okay, so there are three classifications. First thing is high-level programming language versus low-level programming language. Okay, and then there is another segment called compiled programming language versus interpreted programming language. Okay, and finally we have procedural versus object-oriented programming structures, OOPS. Okay, so these are the three classifications of programming language, guys. You take any programming language, either it falls into high level or low level, either compiled or interpreted, either procedural or OOPS. Okay, now let's try to understand what these definitions are exactly. Any idea, guys, what exactly a high level programming language is and a low level programming language? Yes, no, maybe? No worries. Let me explain. Okay. So low-level programming language is nothing but a mission understandable programming language. Okay, a mission understandable programming language. Okay, the best example is assembly language. And talking about high level, right? This high level programming language, is human readable or human understandable programming language. Okay, so basically, what are the programming languages we know, right? C, C++, then Python, okay, and then Scala. What are the programming languages we are using? They all comes under high level programming languages. Okay, so these are all high level programming languages because you can easily understand just by looking at it. Okay, so they won't be looking like some kind of commands just like in your assembly language. No, that's not the case. Okay, so high level programming languages is something which you can easily learn and which you can easily use to interact with your computer, as simple as that. And these high level languages, right, these high level languages are converted to machine understandable zeros and ones by the component called compiler, which we have discussed. Okay, so your Python would come into this high level programming language category. And now talking about compiled and then interpreted. Okay, in compiled languages, there are a couple of steps. One is compilation, or we call compile, and the second one is execution or execute. So there are two steps, guys, for any programming language. There are two steps: compile and then execute. Let me tell you what exactly happens in compile step and what exactly happens in execute step. So for example, you have written some code. Okay, so now what your compiler does is it will take your code and convert it into machine understandable code. Okay, and this machine understandable code will be executed. Okay, the process of executing this machine understandable code is what we refer to as execution step. And the process of converting your code to machine understandable language is what we refer to as compilation step. Okay, so you take any programming language, these are the two steps that are followed. Now, how can we use these two steps to differentiate compiled versus interpreted programming language? So basically, in compiled programming languages, you'll have to write the entire code. And then compile and then execute. Okay. Now talking about this interpreted type of programming language, right? This is the beautiful thing about Python, guys. Okay, so you don't need to write the entire code. You can just write one code, check the output. You can just write one code, check the output, so on and so forth. Okay, so this compilation and execution happens for every single line of code. For every line of code. Okay, so here it will give you more control because you don't need to write the entire code to check your logic, or you don't need to write your entire code to debug it. Okay, if something went wrong, right? So instead, you can just write one line of code, check the output. You can write next line of code, check the output. So basically, you are controlling the flow in which you are heading. Okay, so Python, Scala, and there are a few other programming languages which comes under this interpreted category, guys. Okay, are we good with this classification, compiled versus interpreted?
Yeah, it's good.
Perfect. Now, talking about this procedural and object oriented, I don't want to go through this now because it will confuse you a lot. But programming, our Python comes under this object-oriented programming structures category, because everything in Python is defined in a class and an object, either directly or indirectly. Okay, so it comes under object-oriented programming structures category. Okay, now let me list down features of Python. Okay, so it's an interpreted programming language, right? And the second one, it's a high-level programming languages. It comes under this high-level programming language categorization. And then this is an object-oriented programming, object-oriented program, right? And the very reason why you all have joined this demo, it's easy to learn, pretty easy to learn. Trust me, guys. If you want me to emphasize on this point, right? Python is the easiest programming language. I have worked on Java, I have worked on Scala, I have worked on Python. Okay, and I'm basically a computer science graduate. So in my college, I have learned C and C++. I haven't learned anything though, but at least I should say I have learned C and C++ in my college. Okay, so among all these programming languages, right, Python is the easiest. Okay, so I have been working on Python for almost 4.5 years now. I mean, especially in data engineering space. But when you talk about application development as well, it's been more than 6 years now. Recently, I have got offer from one of the organization, but they want me to work on Scala. I have simply rejected the offer because I don't want to go back to any other programming language. Now, just that I'm addicted to Python. Okay, so in fact, it's part and parcel of my life now. Okay, so it's that easy to learn, and most of the companies today are also adopting this approach of training freshers on Python and then testing freshers on Python during interviews. Okay, because and another thing is, if you could learn and understand Python, you could learn any other programming language, guys, for sure. Okay, and then wide range of applications. Okay, so have you ever heard of this term, like Python is everywhere? Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, it's right.
Okay, so Python is everywhere, and Python is the most happening programming language from last couple of years. Okay, especially last couple of years. You talk about data engineering, PySpark is the most happening thing. They have a component called Databricks as well, which has supported Python from the beginning. I can also give you an example, guys. What's the role of Python in data engineering? So at one point of time, people told big data is dying, especially in 2017, 2016. Okay, so I'll have to correct their statement. Big data as a technology is not dying, but initially big data used to rely on something called as MapReduce. Okay, I think it was in late 2016 or 2017, PySpark has been introduced, and that has been a revelation, guys. Once the PySpark has been introduced, there is no looking back for data engineering. The reason being, most of the data scientists use Python, and most of the data analysts use Python, like Python as their secondary programming language. Their first skill set would be SQL. Okay, and secondary skill set should be Python. That's how they are treating Python now. And talking about data science applications, building data science applications, 80 to 85% of the data science applications are built using Python. Yes, third is R, correct, Srividya. Okay, so this is how Python is being treated in the industry now. I mean, Python has grown to that level where the success of a tool depends on its flexibility to support Python, as simple as that. Okay, so next couple of years, it's definitely going to be Python, and then you never know. If you ask me, boss, if I learn Python, can I survive for next 5 years, next 10 years? I don't have an answer at this point in time, because there is another programming language Golang. I don't know how many of you have heard this, but this is also gaining significance these days. Okay, but I would say 80-20. Still, I would go with Python 80% and Golang 20%. But you never know if all the different applications, whatever supporting Python today, start supporting Golang, it could be a different case, but a long way to go. Right now, all the applications are being built using Python. Migrating those applications to Golang would be a hefty task. Okay. Now, talking about the next steps. Okay, so you have its applications in data science, you have its applications in data engineering, you have its applications in developing web applications, where not. Okay, so Python is everywhere, right? So that is the reason, even in the fresher hiring space, companies are preferring Python. Okay, so in most of the interviews, you are asked questions on Python, right? So this is the main point, guys. And then experienced professionals, right? Now let me also answer one of the point I wanted to bring up. Okay, so talking about this course, for freshers, my course would be more than enough for you to crack interviews. Okay, if you are in India, if you are joining from US, if you are going through a contractor, and they follow a different process altogether. Since they will be projecting you as an experienced professional, you might have to learn something else as well. But for Indians, whoever joining with a fresher experience, right, this is more than enough, my course. And now talking about experienced professionals, I have seen a lot of folks with some experience around them. This course alone is not going to help you guys. This course is a starting point for you to learn some domain. Okay, so for example, data engineering domain, maybe data science domain, or maybe web application domain. Okay, so right after this course, you will be in a position to go through you should be in a position to start those courses. Okay, so definitely Python alone is not going to give you wings. You'll have to learn the other technology too. One technology is a must along with this programming language. So this programming language, whatever you are learning, be it Python, be it Scala, be it Java, right? They will be acting as a medium to implement solutions using one or the other technology. So for example, Python is used to develop PySpark applications. Okay, Java or Python can be used to develop web applications. Okay, so learning Java wouldn't make you a full stack developer, or learning Python wouldn't make you a data scientist. Again, Python is used to develop data science applications. Hope I'm making sense to everyone. Okay, but for fresher, at this point in time, nobody would recruit you for a particular technology. So they will recruit you and they will put you into a project where they need new resources. Okay, so learning Python will do. Once you go there, they will give you training on those technologies. And if you could learn it upfront, that would be, that would be invaluable. Okay, even companies would be so happy to onboard you directly onto a project. Might not happen in typical conglomerates, but never know. A lot of equations have changed after lockdown. Okay. Now let me walk you through the course, guys. So our course duration is around 45 days to 60 days, guys. So basically, 35 to 40 sessions. 35 to 40 sessions. Okay, so happens from Monday to Friday, and the batch starting date and timings will be informed from our respective support folks. Okay, so my course is called as Comprehensive Python because I'll be teaching basic Python, or Python as a programming language, and I'll also teach you Python that is required in different application areas. Okay, so for example, how Python can be used in data science, right? So I'm gonna walk you through modules that are used in data science. Might not be in depth, but that is good enough to kickstart your learning in data science. Okay. Similarly, I'm gonna show you some other things as well. So hence the name comprehensive Python. I'm not just gonna teach you, object-oriented concepts and some programming concepts. I'm gonna show you how whatever you have learned can be used in other technologies. Okay, so we'll start with the basics of Python. I'm going to walk you through what exactly Python is. So we'll be revisiting whatever we have discussed today in our first session as well, because not everyone attending this session would be joining the course, and some new folks would be joining the course directly. Okay, so whatever we have discussed so far would also be repeated, and then I'm going to walk you through installation and setting up Python. Cloud environment though, we'll be using Google Colab. You might ask me, boss, wouldn't you show us how to develop applications in PyCharm? Yes, I'm going to show you the IDE way of doing things as well. So you'll be learning 3 ways of implementing Python, implementing Python programming languages or developing Python applications. One by using the Google Colab, pretty much similar to Jupyter Notebook, if you have ever heard about it. If not, I'm going to walk you through that. So don't worry about it for now. Okay, and second one, I'm going to show you how to install Python in your local machine and do it without any IDE. Okay, because Colab Notebook is also a kind of IDE, right? And then third way, I'm going to show you how to install PyCharm IDE and develop Python applications there. Okay, so like I said, we'll start with easiest method using Google Colab Notebook, and module by module we'll try to change the IDs we are using. Then the basic concepts, keywords, variables, data types, and then control structures, conditional statements, right? So pretty common in any programming language. You take Java, you take C, C++, Scala. These concepts are common. Only syntaxes will be different, and maybe a couple of differences here and there. Okay, then I'm gonna walk you through arrays, then Python functions. Then we're gonna talk about string functions, because string functions is pretty important. And then I'm gonna walk you through date, calendar, and time delta modules, Python lambda functions, which is pretty important for writing Spark applications. Okay, and then I'm gonna walk you through Python modules, file IO. When I talk about file IO, I'm gonna show you how you can read and write from different type of files, from a CSV file, from a text file, from an Excel file, and from a JSON file. Okay, we'll talk about what those files exactly are, and then we're gonna develop some applications to read and write data from these files. Then pretty important module, guys, collections. Okay, so talking about collections, we're gonna talk about four important collections: list, set, map, and tuple. Sorry, list, set, dict, and tuple. Dict is nothing but a dictionary. Okay, and then another form of sets called as frozen sets. Okay, so this is like the heart of our course, module 2. Okay, and then comes object-oriented programming structures. So in object-oriented programming structures, we will spend some good amount of time to understand what exactly a class is, what exactly an object is, and then we'll talk about constructor, we'll talk about data abstraction, we'll talk about class variable, instance variable, and then we'll talk about different types of methods we write there: instance method, class method, static method, whatnot. Okay, then I'm going to walk you through method overloading, inheritance, then data abstraction, with which we will be wrapping up object-oriented programming concepts. Okay, and then miscellaneous topics. Guys, though I'm mentioning module 1, module 2, module 3, module 4, we might not follow the same order in our training. Okay, I will definitely be jumbling this order, to so for example, we are using Google Colab. I'm going to teach you all the concepts which we use for which we use Google Colab likewise. Okay, so talking about this miscellaneous topic, we'll talk about exception handling, we'll talk about how to send an email using Python code, okay, and then we'll talk about JSON, right? So JSON, JavaScript object notation, what exactly a JSON format is, and why JSON or the JSON format or JSON files are important, and how JSON files can be used to send parameters or send dynamic parameters to your code, right? Pretty interesting topic. And then I'll give you an overview of decorator and generators in Python. And module 5 is all about Python for data science, guys. Okay, so interesting part of my course is going to be the workshops. Okay, so I treat every one of you as a fresher because you might have 20 years experience. I don't care. You have 25 years experience into something else, but not into programming language. Okay, so most of the time I'll be using the layman terminology, and I'm gonna explain it in a way a beginner can understand. Okay, so I'm being very clear on this, guys. Okay, if someone have a different expectation, or if someone already have some prior knowledge about Python, you know, we can talk. Okay, but yes, I'm gonna treat every one of you as a fresher, and I'm gonna walk you through every single step to start with. Okay, and talking about this Python for data science, I'll be walking you through 4 different packages, 4 different modules: NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, and Seaborn. Okay, and like I was mentioning, the beautiful part of my training is workshops. Okay, so we'll start with some basic examples, guys. Conditions or anything. So we kind of implement some games during the module 1, and then module 2 we implement a telephone directory application, and module 3, object oriented programming structures, we implement a call center payment application. Okay, so we kind of start with requirement gathering, then system design to the implementation of the code. Okay, so with simple examples, I mean, any complex definition, any complex problem statement, or any complex problem can be broken down into easy steps and easy and understandable steps, and can be implemented. Okay, so that's the kind of approach we have adopted from years now. Okay, and then, like I said, Python for data science, we are going to develop a photo editor application, guys. Pretty interesting. I'm going to walk you through how an image processing is done, and then I'll be showing you the beauty of maths, programming language, and images together. Okay, a simple photo application where you can rotate your photo, where you can add monochrome effect, right? So one of my favorite use cases. And then we are also gonna do some kind of Titanic data analysis, a very famous data set, Titanic data set. We'll try to understand, how many folks have survived, and what are the different factors that contributed for the survival rate. Okay, so is it the class in which they're traveling, or is it gender, or is it the number of family members, right? So we're gonna do that kind of analysis using Pandas. Okay, so basically module 5 would give you a glimpse of how Python can be leveraged in data science area. Okay, though we'll spend only 4 hours, but that 4 hours would give you some solid understanding on what is coming to you when you start learning data science. And then next, module 6 is about JDBC, so Java database connectivity. Here I'm going to show you how to install MySQL environment, right? And then I'm going to show you the CRUD operations, like how can you create it. I know most of you might be from computer science background, not from computer science background, might be from database background or not from database background, right? So I'm gonna give you some understanding on what exactly a database is, and I'm gonna walk you through some CRUD operations, basic CRUD operations: create, read, update, and delete. And then I'm gonna show you how you can perform the same operations using Python code. Okay, and then comes the module 7, web programming, introduction to Django and Flask. Okay, so I am gonna introduce Django and Flask to you. So don't expect too much, guys. Module 7, it's going to be only couple of hours of session where I'm gonna just walk you through what exactly Django is, what exactly Flask is, and I'm gonna show you how to set up the environment in your local machine, and we'll just run a hello world program. So I'll make sure that a hello world is displayed on your web browser using Django and Flask. As simple as that. Because if you want to deep dive into Django and Flask, that will be a separate course altogether. But like I said, I want to give you some flavor of Django and Flask application, just like I did for data science. Okay, so this is how the course is designed, guys. Okay, and it's going to be a 1 hour session, and sometimes I might take sessions on Saturday as well, but that will be informed where I mean that will be informed very early. So for example, I want to take this week Saturday session, I'll be informing you on Monday itself, and I'll be taking your concern as well. Only if every one of you agrees, I'll be taking sessions on Saturday. Usually that happens whenever a session is cancelled during the week. Okay, now I'm up for your question and answers, guys. So that's all I have. I'm now open for your Q&A. You can use your chat window. You can ping your question to either to me directly, or you can ping it to everyone. If you ping it to me, I'll not be reading out your name, but I'll be reading out your question while answering it. Session timings, I'm not the right person. Career IT folks will get back to you on session timings, session link, and other things. Can I expect any real-time experience in this course? So to answer your question, Sandeep, not just this course, in any course you will not get that real-time experience, because we cannot teach you everything in 2 months. Okay, so I'll be brutally honest in answering your questions, guys, because I always feel setting up the right expectations is very important. So I don't want to give you any false promises like you'll get real-time exposure, you'll get that, you'll get this. Until and unless you work on a project in a company, you don't get that real-time experience. Mark my word. Okay, so not just in this course, in any course you don't get real-time exposure. Okay, but at least I'll be sharing my experiences with you. Like I said, I'll tell you something. We'll talk about a concept called infinite loop. Okay, so when I talk about infinite loop, I'll just tell you what is infinite loop and how a infinite loop can be used. Definitely you'll not be able to know now. Okay, so let's say I'll be giving you an example. Okay, I'll be giving you an example. Maybe I'll talk about a file example using this while loop. Though I have talked about that, it will be little difficult for you to understand because you don't have that data engineering background. Or maybe if I give you that infinite loop application in something else, that would be difficult for you to understand for freshers. But for experienced folks, at least it will make some sense. Okay, so I'll be sharing those kind of experiences, but you'll not get that hands-on. Okay, I'll not be available after the session, Kanakraju. Okay, so I'm not a full-time trainer. I'm working for some other company full-time, and this is my freelance thing. I'm doing it with some passion, right? So 99.9% you shouldn't be getting any issues because recordings would be available. Say for example, once the session is done, within couple of hours, recording would be uploaded to the window, I mean our drive. Okay, and then you'll be able to access those recordings. So the next point of your the next point of answering your questions would be Google, and the second point of contact would be me. in the next session. Okay. Still, if you have any concerns, understanding something, you can definitely go back to Career ID folks and ask them to schedule a one-on-one call with me. And based on my availability, I'll be meeting with you one-on-one to address your concerns. Okay. So again, like I said, that can happen maybe once or twice in the entire duration. Okay. It cannot be regular too. I cannot attend you on a regular basis. So I would expect every one of you to ask questions in the session itself. Okay, I'll be more than happy to spend time answering your questions. Okay, can you share an example of data science applications in banking? Why not? Let me take this one at the end. Okay. Can Python coding replace existing all features Java has applications wise? Most of them, I would say. I don't want to, though I'm confident that 100% it can replace, but there could be some areas which I don't know. So I would say 80%. One-year gap is not at all a big deal, and in this lockdown, right, the companies are open to recruit freshers with 3 years of gap. Okay, so that shouldn't be a stopper. I don't see that as an issue. Any certificate will be issued after the course completion. Okay. So to answer this question, firstly, my answer would be yes, certificate will be provided. Okay, and you might have to check that with Career ID support folks as well. Okay, but let me also tell you something. Don't fall into certification trap. Okay, so you cannot use your certification as a tongue cleaner as well. Okay. So nobody would be looking at your certificates while you are joining while you are joining a company. If it is an industry certification, definitely it has value, but course certifications, no. Okay, so I have 8 years of experience, guys. I recruit at least 100 people every year. Okay, so at least me, my team, my company, whatever I have worked for so far, we have never asked a fresher for a certificate. It's just for your self-satisfaction. I think I have answered your question, Shankar. Can Python coding replace all existing features of Java has? Like I said, 80% yes, at least to my knowledge. Okay, I mean, to my knowledge, I would say 100%, but like I said, there could be something which I don't know, so I'll stick to 80%. I mean, that's totally fine, Divya. Now, talking about the other question, can you share an example data science applications in banking? So data science as a domain is one of my favorite domain, guys. I mean, though I'm not a data scientist, but being a data engineer, I really work close to data scientists. Okay, so the kind of applications we build, right? Beautiful applications, not just in banking domain. There are many other domains. So one application which our bank is currently using, like I said, I cannot mention the bank name which I'm working for. Okay, and also the application name, unfortunately, because it's not yet available for use in India. Okay, so that's an application which we are supporting, and this is how it works. You open your application in a room, okay, or in your flat. It will show you all the surrounding properties which are for sale. Okay, so for example, I'm in my flat in Gachibowli. Okay, it will show me all the properties which are available for sale around you. Okay, you click on that property, it will show you all the rate card. Okay, so in other countries, like in other countries, right, the negotiation won't be like India has. Okay, maybe you pay 20 lakh black money, I'll give you for cheaper price, or maybe you pay 30 lakh black money, you don't need to pay GST. No, we don't have those kind of things outside. Okay, so they have a fixed rate card. Whomever is buying, if they are interested and if some offer is going on, they'll have those offers. Otherwise, it's going to be a fixed rate card. Okay, you click on that property and you can schedule a visit. And once your visit is done, if you are really interested to buy and you want to apply for a loan, everything can be done by that application. Okay, you just click on apply for home loan. You don't even need to submit any application, guys. You don't need to submit any documents. So that app by itself does all the background verification of yours. Okay, your credit verification. For example, in India we have CIBIL system, CBIL, CIBIL. Okay, similarly in any other country, in every other country, we have one or the other system to track the credit history. Okay, so this app would go and track the credit history, and then I mean, one prerequisite for this to happen would be your salary account should be our bank. Okay, so that is the only prerequisite. Okay, so once everything is done, your home loan will be deposited to your builder account just in 2 days. Okay, so which means you can just go and register your flat in a week, in less than a week. Okay, and yeah, so a lot of machine learning concepts have been used in the background, guys. So a machine learning algorithm to identify where you are and what is your surroundings, or what is your vicinity, what are the properties that are there in your vicinity, maybe in less than 5 kilometers, right? And then a lot of other features, right? So there are more interesting applications which we have built. I can give you one application, one of my favorite applications. We have done this for a manufacturing domain, guys. The client is Nissan. I don't know how many of you have heard about this term called OBD, onboard diagnostics. Okay, so talking about this onboard diagnostics, right? Your engine sensor would generate some data. If any one of you watch Telugu movies, there is a movie called Chitralahari. Okay, there is a movie called Chitralahari. So the climax of that movie is based on this OBD device. Okay, so that's not something cinematic, but those are the devices, those are the kind of applications that are really built outside. And this is something which we have built in 2014 itself. Okay, so we use this OBD device and this OBD data to check the engine status, and if your engine status is not in a good condition, or maybe it might get into some issue in next 1 week, we will be predicting that and sending a notification to the owner of the car saying that, boss, you will be running into so and so issue in next 1 week or in next 10 days, you better get your car serviced. Okay, so that's the kind of intelligence we have provided to that system. Okay, so whatever the so-called intelligent cars you are seeing, be it Tesla or be it MG Hector, a lot of machine learning, lot of complex machine learning algorithms are running in the backend. Okay, hope that answers your question, Sridivya. Yeah, I mean, not just this, I have worked on wonderful use cases, and I can tell you something. In Google, whatever the reports we have generated was presented by Sundar Pichai in one of the Google Next events. Okay, so that is a proud moment for our team, though. So we have done something called as return on investment on the Salesforce customer data. So we were handling all the Gmail accounts that are created in the world. Okay, so it was really fun, checking for my Gmail ID in their database. So machine learning is all fun, guys. Machine learning, data science, artificial intelligence, AI, they are all a lot of fun. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Cool. And one more thing, during our course, these 2 months, right? Every individual has a different opinion, and if we differ, let's not argue. Okay. So again, I respect your opinion, you respect my opinion. If we differ, that's okay, right? Because not everyone can be in agreement with everything. Okay. Because a lot of discussions would come in future, maybe if you are an experienced professional especially. So I just wanted to mention that as well, right? Maybe I say Python is the most used programming language, you say Java is the most used, that's okay. Okay. Right? So that's all I have. If you don't have any questions, we are good to end this demo. But before you leave the demo, I would like to hear from you. So did you like the demo? I mean, I just want to hear your thoughts on how the demo was.
Yeah, yes, Suresh. This is Sai. It's really good for me.
Thank you, Sai.
Thank you. Thank you, Suresh. Thanks for sharing your knowledge.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, guys. And we'll see you in the sessions if you have decided to join. Okay. Have a good day and a good night for the folks joining from US. Once again, thank you for providing us with this opportunity.